Hey, this is Andrew Brown, and we are taking a look at GitHub Codespaces. This is a cloud developer environment, or also known as a CDE, integrated with your GitHub repo. And the idea is that you have this thing called a codespace. That's what they call their developer environment. And a codespace runs Ubuntu Linux Docker container on a virtual machine, hosted and managed by GitHub. So this is kind of a representation of how it works. I don't write it here, but the idea is that when you launch up GitHub Codespaces, it's actually cloning your GitHub repository so you can start working with it right away. And most cloud developer environments do that, so that's a pretty common pattern. And it's going to clone that repo into a workspaces folder. So you can interact with Codespaces via multiple ways. We have the SSH, via the GitHub CLI. You have code editors such as VS Code Browser, the desktop, JetBrains IDE. For the desktop, you can just open that up in the browser mode by going to Open in VS Code Desktop. And it does give you a bit more flexibility than the browser because there could be extensions that only work locally. And, it's just, you get a better experience there. But I usually use everything in the browser because I don't like to do local development anymore. I'm totally moved over to the cloud. But for the GitHub CLI commands, we do have a lot there. And so that's a great way to programmatically work with your GitHub Codespaces. When you create a new codespace, you'll have to choose the repo, the branch, the region, the machine type, and that shows that all there. That gives you a good idea of how you can configure your codespace. The regions you can choose from is US East, US West, Europe West, Southeast Asia, and the Australias. And I think when I first launched it, I don't know if it always shows me this options, but if you need to choose these options, you can make sure you get that stuff. There is a capacity of your environment based on the virtual machine type. So the larger it is, the more expensive it is, and they go based on cores. So you can see the larger the cores, the more RAM, and the more storage you're going to get. That second value being the storage. You can see all your codespaces across all your repos at github.com/codespaces. And the way you're going to start a codespace is if you drop down that code under the Codespaces tab, you can go ahead and create it on a particular branch. That's usually what you want to do is say, I want to launch this on main branch or a dev branch. You can obviously use the GitHub CLI to open up Codespaces. There is a limit of concurrent Codespaces allowed to run. If you hit that limit, you may need to stop other Codespaces first. I don't know if this is the case, but there might also be a hotkey within GitHub repo, but if I'll have to go double check that before we talk about it, okay? Hey, this is Andrew Brown, and this fall along, I want to take a look at some of the configuration options when we launch up our Codespaces. So I'm going to switch back to my other account here, and we'll go into the Fun repo. And what I want to do is open up this code tab. And normally what we would do is we'd launch a Codespace here, but I really want to choose the options that I use to configure it with. And so you can see we have some other things here. We'll go config with options, and this is where we're going to get the choice of choosing our branch, choosing our region, choosing our machine type. And so that is the way that we can do it. Notice that we're limited to 2 and 4 cores. This is probably because we don't have a credit card attached. And so it is very limited. I'm curious to see what it is in my other account, which could have some paid capabilities. So I'm just going to quickly switch over to that and take a look there. So let's say we went into the ExamPro repo, because definitely we're paying on ExamPro for sure. And let's just say I'm doing Terraform Beginner. I'm going to go here and go to Codespaces and say with options and see if we get more options. And yeah, look, we do get more options. So that definitely is a factor for the things that you're going to be able to see. So that is pretty clear. Let's go back over to here. And I want to, again, go back to this repo. And I mean, we definitely do want to open one for Codespaces, but we're going to go ahead and delete this one. I really just want to get to the repo itself. And let's go take a look. Here again. And I mean, I never looked at this before, so I'm really curious what's under here for configure dev container. Oh, it just opens it up in JSON. So nothing super interesting, but it's nice to see they have some documentation here as you're working on that file to help you configure it. I could have probably used that later on, so I guess we'll take a look at that. But really, it's simple. We'll just go ahead and say with options, and we'll be very explicit about how we launch it. Main. Yeah, pretty straightforward. We'll go ahead and launch a Codespace. And so all I really want to do is just show you the command palette in here for Codespaces, as we've already used Codespaces a lot in this course. but just go here and show you some of the command palette options. So if we go to the command palette, which was down below here, we type in Codespaces. This is where we're going to get a lot of the actions. Actually, I'm surprised I didn't make a slide on this, but you can see that we have a few different things. So we can change our machine type here. We can manage our secrets from here. We can rebuild our container if we change our dev container file. We can stop our workspace. So a lot of stuff here, but I'm going to go ahead and stop our current workspace. Okay, because that's good enough for me for now. And we'll go back over to GitHub. Let's take a look at what we have in our settings. So we go here, and we go down to Codespaces. And so we can have our secrets here. We can have settings syncs, which is turned on and it doesn't seem to ever work. And we have some additional options. So we have access and security. This might be, I guess it's no longer here. We can choose the default editor to launch in, the idle time, the host image, whether we want to use beta or stable, or manually set our region, but it seems like it auto detects. But yeah, it's pretty straightforward, but we'll look at these features as we go through this Codespaces section. So there you go. Let's take a look at the GitHub Codespaces lifecycle. There was no diagram, so I'm the first one to make one, if that's even that exciting. But usually the first thing that's going to happen is you want to create your Codespace. And technically reopening is kind of similar, so we could say create or reopen. And from there, we want to get our Codespace running. Once our Codespace is running, we can stop it. And of course, stopping it freezes the state of your workspace so you can use it again later. And the idea is that if we wanted to reuse it, we just reopen it and it'll run again. If let's say our our environment timed out for any reason, maybe we walked away from our computer, maybe we just forgot that we forgot to turn it off, maybe we had some kind of interruption, Codespaces is going to turn off by default after 30 minutes of activity. It's basically the same thing as doing a stop, and it's the equivalent. It's the equivalent of doing a stop there. So this is just to keep costs low for you. If you want to make changes to your dev container file, which is going to say what your base image is and stuff that's installed, you have to do a rebuild in the current environment. That's the only way it's going to do that. If you're launching up a Codespace for the first time, it's going to build it from that dev container, but sometimes you have to do rebuilds. The environment gets saved periodically, so generally you're not losing data. So when you abruptly close and then it stops, it's persisting data to the virtual machine as long as it's not deleted, but still assume that that environment is possible to be lost. I think after a certain amount of time, it will actually delete a repo after a certain amount of days. So just understand that, if it's something really important, make sure to commit it and put it in a temporary branch or a working branch. It does auto-saving, so with the VS Code browser, it will auto-save on by default. For VS Code Desktop, auto-save needs to be turned on, apparently. But when I was using it, I never ran into any issues. It just seemed to work. When you're deleting, when you're done with your environment, you can delete it. You don't have to delete it if you think you're going to start it up again because you're not having any spend while it's deleted, but there could be some limits in terms of how many workspaces you have or Codespaces, so you might need to delete some, but there you go. So when you create a Codespace, it's going to be assigned an auto-generated display name, and so in this case, it made Shiny Space Chainsaw. And sometimes when you have a lot of Codespaces, it gets confusing what is the contents of those Codespaces. So it's totally possible for you to rename your Codespace, and that's just going to make things a lot easier. You can see all of those Codespaces at /Codespaces, and it'll just make it a lot clearer, okay? Hey, this is Andrew Brown, and this fall long, we're going to take a look at how to rename a GitHub Codespace. So let's hope that we already have one here so that we can rename it. If you don't, you'll have to make a new one. This one's called Shiny Cod. Not a great name, not a great name whatsoever, but let's go ahead and rename it. And I'm going to call this one just Dev, okay? And we'll keep it right nice and simple here. And so now it's been renamed Dev. And so let's go take a look at our Codespaces so we can see the renaming of that. So it's not here. I got to go back a little bit. And so now we can see all of our Codespaces, and there it is. So we have our repo here, and it's called Dev, and that is a lot better than before. So that's all I wanted to show you. Let's take a look at some VS Code configurations in the context of GitHub Codespaces. So the idea is that GitHub Codespaces should persist your VS Code settings so you get a similar environment across Codespaces. So far, I haven't had that experience. I have no way of figuring out how to configure that, but it seems like it's supposed to work. So if you figure it out, please tell me, but I'll just pretend that it does work somehow. If you've never used VS Code before, there's this thing called settings, and it's a little bit more complicated than that because all this stuff that you're editing in the UI is actually updating a settings.json file. It gets synced and backed up, I'm assuming on GitHub. Maybe it goes somewhere else. But you can see there's a backup and sync settings. You can override settings JSON options in your dev container JSON file. Let's take a look at VS Code extensions. So GitHub Codespaces should persist. I use the word should because, again, I'm not getting it to work for me. But the idea is that you can install your extensions. Most VS Code Marketplace extensions are available to install in the VS Code browser for GitHub Codespaces. You can ensure your extensions reliably load every time by setting them in the dev container.json. We have VS Code theme. This allows you to change the look of your VS Code. And this is a personal choice of what you want to choose, but those kind of choices you're not supposed to put in your dev container.json file for some reason. But yeah, there you go. There are two options or configuration options you should know for GitHub Codespaces, and that's timeout and retention period. So timeout is how long Codespaces should wait to stop a codespace when there has been no activity. You can set this to be as low as 5 minutes, up to a maximum of 4 hours, and the default is 30 minutes. For default retention, this is saying when should we start deleting your codespaces if they are inactive. You could set it to a minimum of 0 days, to a maximum of 30 days, and the default is 30. So play around with these values and figure out what works best for you. So there is an option called sync settings for codespaces, which will pull your sync settings, and the idea is it's supposed to continually reset it. So VS Code sync settings lets you share your Visual Studio Code configurations such as settings, key bindings, and install extensions across your machines so you're always working with your favorite setup. This has not worked so far for me. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but it is an option. I have it turned on in my account, but supposedly this is an offering that is available for Codespaces. You can configure GitHub Codespaces to use Dotfiles from a specific repo that will be used for all future Codespaces that you start. So the idea is you checkbox this on, you specify the repo, it's going to pull the Dotfiles from this repo into all future Codespaces that you start up. GitHub clones your selected Dotfile repos to the Codespace environment, looks for one of the following files to set up in your environment. So we have install, sh, bootstrap, setup, sh, and a bunch of others. So you can see that you could probably offset some of the configuration that would be in dev container into this as post-boot scripts. But yeah, there you go. Codespaces deep link is just a way for you to generate out a URL that will launch a codespace for a specific repo. So here is a look at the actual URL. It says codespaces.new / and then the repo name. But you can get this deep link through dropping down the code tab, and then you can get either the URL or HTML or markup to make it really easy to launch it. And when you do launch it, it's going to bring you to the create a new codespace workspace. You can checkbox the quick start if you want to skip that, but that's all it really is. It's just a shareable link. So when you're using Codespaces, you might have environment variables or passwords or secrets or access tokens that you don't want to hard code into your code because that's just a bad habit. It's just going to lead into serious issues. So you need to inject them some way in the environment when they launch up from a secure location. That is what Codespaces secrets does. So you can see in this example, we have AWS credentials, and the idea it will is that it will get loaded in the environment. So we'll go take a look at that, okay? Hey, this is Andrew Brown. In this video, I want to take a look at how to set secrets for Codespaces. So we'll go to the repo. There might be a few different ways that we can set it. But what I want to do is go first check if we can do it this way. No, but we can go over to our settings and we'll check out Codespaces here on the left-hand side. And from here, if we scroll, well, it's actually right up here, we can create a new secret. And so let's just pretend that we have a super secret. We'll just make up something here and we'll just say Roadhouse, a bunch of numbers, and then a $sign and a $, okay? And we can even say what repo it's for. So it's for the fun repo, and we're gonna go ahead and add that secret. Now let's go launch up a Codespaces and see if it's available. So I'm gonna go back to that repo. And yeah, we'll go back over here. We might already have one from before. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. And I'm just going to launch a new one so that we are squeaky clean. And I'm not sure why it's giving me all these options. I just want to launch one. We'll go back over here. We'll try this again. We'll say create one on main, and we'll hope that that gets loaded in. So I'll be back here when this is fully loaded, okay? All right, so now that our environment's up, I'm gonna assume that those secrets were loaded via the environment variables. So I'm just gonna bump up the font here for a moment. We're not gonna spend too much time in here. And I'm gonna type in env, and well, actually we'll just hit enter and see what we get. So we have a bunch of environment variables. That doesn't help so much. So I'm gonna go back and type in grep, and we'll type in super. And there it is. So we could now access that as an environment variable. I could echo it out if I want, super secret. And there we go. So that's all I really wanted to show you. And I'll see you in the next one, okay? So before I do that, I'll just stop this environment. And yeah, we'll see you now. Ciao. So Visual Studio Code Dev Containers allows you to configure your Docker containers via JSON file. So you can use this in Codespaces. You can use this with VS Code in general. So the dev container JSON file is expected in the root of your project, and there's an example of a very simple one. Let's go look at some common configurations so you can quickly understand how this file works. Usually you want to provide a remote image. So this is the one that is, I think, being used for a base image for Microsoft and a lot of the features that you can add to it. You can build your own images by supplying the Docker file in your project and supply it some arguments. There are features that allow you to quickly install certain programs. We did this earlier, I think in our quick and dirty Git crash course. But the idea is that we can install these features so we can get quickly moving. And this is specifically for the common base image. If you want to create your own features, you totally could, but it has to be for your image. You can also configure custom programs. You'd usually put that in your Docker file. You could also use the post create command to run a shell script. So there's a lot of ways to do post configuration or try to do something very similar. And as I said, you can create your own features to quickly install on top of your own base images. It is a lot of work to make features though. Settings allow you to configure the settings of VS Code. So that is a block that you can put in there. And you can see we also have one for extensions, so it knows what to install next time. We can tell what ports to always forward, which is really useful if you're running web servers. We have command flags, or we can pass command flags to Docker run with the run args. So that's something that might be useful for you. If you need to pass environment variables, you set that in the container env. You can mount a bunch of locations and then map the files and folders. So we'll take a quick look here at some of the options. So we bind, mount a local directory, mount a Docker volume for persistent storage, mount the Docker socket, mount a specific file, mount a host directory as a read only, okay? The command that runs after creation is the post create command. You can set the default username that VS Code should use when connecting to the container. You could use the post create command to install a bunch of programs on top of your base container, and that's pretty much it. So there is obviously a lot that goes in with these dev containers. I find them really hard to configure. I don't want to spend too much time doing them, and the exam's not going to ask you about this stuff, but for practicality, we should know it because if we're working with Codespaces or VS Code, it's definitely something you're going to come across. But there you go. Let's take a look at how you would change the shell for GitHub Codespaces. So the idea is that the VS Code browser comes with bash fish zsh. So you do have a few options in order to change your shells. I usually just use bash, but maybe you like something else. Is there some way to get PowerShell on there? Probably, but I didn't look into it. And the way you would configure that is in your dev container. So the idea is that, let's say you wanted to bring in one called CSSH. And so you would specify the path of where it is. So this is CSH, but you might have to be very specific where it is. And then that way you can have it in your profiles as a dropdown. Notice that if you are using VS Code for very specific OS distributions, then you can set the default there. But yeah, that's about it.